Now, on a lighter note, I did like the fact that Stallone caught a rabbit.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Cloud.
This is We Watch. This week's movie is Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger is a 1993 action-adventure thriller film directed by Rennie Harlan, starring Sylvester Stallone, John Lithgow, Michael Rooker, Jamie Turner, Leon, Paul Winfield, and Ralph Waite. How about a plot synopsis?
All right, so you have Rocky, and he's like a mountain climber who rescues people who get trapped up in the Rockies, and some shit happens, and a woman falls, and he gets all desperate, runs off for like a year, comes back. Next thing you know it, there's like these like a criminal organization trying to steal a ton of money of like what are they, like
$1,000 bills?
Yeah, like $1,000 bills. Like, wow, they end up doing a super awesome mid-air plane stunt, and then there's like a crash and some snow, and then really bad villains being bad at being villains, and then there's the guy from The Walking Dead and plays Yondo, and all kinds of stupid shit, and I'm just like, what? And there's like no cliffhanging, except for like once.
Yeah, no, there's really kind of not. I mean, there's some climbing.
Yep.
And some hanging. I guess he's kind of when he's climbing up the thing at the beginning before the fall, is that cliffhanging?
Maybe. I don't know. Well, I guess like Cliffhanger's a better name than Ice Mountain Rescue.
It's probably something called that though.
Yeah.
This has one of the strangest credits in the beginning that I've ever seen, which is there's this like the screenplay and story credits, but then there's also a based on a premise by. Like, what is that? Like, how unique is this premise that you got credit for coming up with it? It's like bad guys on a mountain and climbing and money and stuff. What is this premise that only you could have come up with?
Well, like when the movie gets started, you have what's his face with his girl on like one of the peaks, and they can't get back down.
Well, he's hurt somehow.
Yeah, like because it was an old wound from Nam.
No, well, that's what he said, like, but it's not.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course not.
Stallone is like, is that what you told her?
Yeah, that was, yeah. Well, that was a good laugh.
It was an old war from Nam.
Yep. But
even old enough to have fought in Nam, really?
Yeah, like what? But why did you take her up there if she can't get down? Like, why? Like, why? Like, I can see going mountain climbing, but you took her a little bit too high. And then, of course, you had to because she had to die. And then there had to be, like, a fight between, like, the two male characters that were going to be predominant through most of the rest of the movie. But it's not about the movie. It's about the character being a dumbass.
I don't know how did she even climb that far?
Yeah.
If she has no experience in climbing and she's too scared to even go out on the cable. Like, how did they even get there in order to be stuck? Because, I mean, cats climb up into trees they can't get out of, or they could, but they're too scared to, because they don't pay attention to how far up they're going. But people do, and she's plenty scared of how high it is when it comes time to escape. But and then, now, I do really like this sequence. It really does its job. It's really tense and intense in the danger of the hanging out on the line and everything. And some of that may come from that you can kind of tell that they really did it, which they did. The only thing that isn't a real person is the actual, like, the last part of the fall, which is a dummy, but the rest of it, the beginning of the fall and her hanging there the whole time, like, everybody's harnessed and everything, but they're
Well,
still hanging out there on a wire in the middle of a canyon. So
Well, I think the reason why it does so good at its job is the actual cutting between what you have to see and then it's like they cut to the woman and it's like an upper view and you can see just how high up she is as she's about to fall, and then they focus on like the little portion of the buckle that's starting to break and bend, and then it cuts to him being really panicked, and then it cuts back to her, and they just cycle between that. It's like she's in danger, here's the proof of the danger, and there you have, he's freaking out.
mm-hmm.
And so, it keeps you on edge because there you are with him panicking. Then you're looking at her who's in danger, and then there's the danger.
Yeah, it's a really well done sequence. I think it's probably the best part of the movie, actually.
Yeah. Of all the things, like just having something well made, this and then the two planes stunt.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, most of this movie is all right at best.
Yeah, I mean, once you remember how in Atomic Train that's like there's no way this could happen because that track isn't downhill there, it's actually uphill. There's like things like that in this movie where it's like the money comes from the Denver Mint, which does not make paper money, it makes coins. And I've actually been to the Denver Mint. I've actually toured the Denver Mint. I was like 5 years old at the time, but I kind of remember some of it. I have a coin somewhere that's like sealed in plastic that they like minted right there and then like sealed and handed to you, and it's never been like touched except for the machine. And there he says now they're $1,000 bills, which are apparently for international banking of some kind. They're not actually really for anything. And he's like, it makes you being having something everyone wants makes you really superstitious. Like, actually, it doesn't make you superstitious. It just makes you suspicious. It doesn't make you superstitious. Because if you really have something to worry about, that's not superstition. And really, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it is just. Isn't there an easier way to steal $100 million?
Well, I think this would be like $100 million of U.S. money that could be transferred to something else internationally. But at the same time, like this was what, 1989?
93.
93. Okay. Yeah, 93. And so, of course that money's worth more then than it is now. So it's still like a humongous chunk.
It's probably like $150 million or something. There's not that much difference it's not that many years. But it's like he has to have all these special connections and stuff to even be able to use it because they're like non-normal bills, apparently.
Yeah.
They say. Now, there have been at other points in time higher denominations of money than there are that you could just sort of use. They were still mostly used by businesses and banking and stuff when you needed to make big deals before there was electronic banking. Yeah, so they're transferring the money. But the Treasury guy is crooked, and one of the pilots is crooked. Where was the pilot keeping that gun?
Yeah.
He just whips it out from like right there next to the seat. It's like, didn't the other pilot see that? Where were you keeping that?
No, he just got on the plane first and slid it down in there. That's all it was. Government planes. But that was just like a whole bunch of like, what is this? Oh yeah, well we're crooked, haha. And then people just get shot.
Yeah, like everybody gets shot.
And like okay. So then you have like the $1 million stunt.
Mm-hmm.
And like they really did. They had two real planes. They drug a cord between each plane, and then a real man went from one plane to the other plane on that cord.
Mm-hmm.
And they paid him $1 million for it, and that's awesome.
Well, and actually you don't see it in the movie because they cut it as soon as he gets to the door. He was supposed to do the whole thing. He was supposed to string across and then get pulled into the door, but it didn't go exactly right, and so they didn't catch him as he went in the door, as he got to the door. And so then he flew further back onto the plane and banged against the roof of the plane and had to release from the cable and parachute down to the ground. because he couldn't actually make it back to the door.
And that's why he got paid $1 million.
Yeah, but they only did it the one time. The time that's there, they used up until he goes past the door, and so it looks like what it's supposed to. But, yeah, it's a real guy.
Yep. But then one of the main government transfer money people, I don't know what is he supposed to be anyways?
The bald guy?
Well, no, the guy who was shot but gets back up in the plane before it explodes.
Oh, I guess he was probably security of some kind. Maybe, I guess, what? Secret Service does security for Treasury stuff, I think, maybe?
Maybe. Well, I know they used to, but, you know.
Well, I know they still
changed.
investigate, like, counterfeit money and stuff, so maybe they...
But it's just the thing is, like, as the bad guy, this is why you shoot people in the head. Because they don't get back up after that. And if they do, then you need something more than guns. But he just gets back up, and then he starts firing at them, and a few people get shot. But then he doesn't seem to hit anything else on that plane. Just like the bullets completely miss.
Yeah, well...
But even when when the bald man who has a habit of cursing a lot, for no apparent reason other than just to have bad dialogue, and he shoots the few people there... And I'm surprised that none of those rounds ended up hitting a window or causing any in the plane itself right there. You know, like what kind of bullets were he using? Like the way that he was shooting them, like did anything actually pass through him or not?
He was using plot bullets.
Yeah.
Well, he should have died. He was shot a number of times. He should have died. He only doesn't die because we need him not to, so that the plot can continue.
And then, of course, the plane takes some damage, and then there's the weather, and it crashes. But when it crashes, we get probably the most entertaining portion of the movie. Those two crazy guys that want to go out and like have like a good time.
Oh yeah,
by being extreme.
Yeah, the dudes.
Like, we're gonna go out jumping, man. You want to come with? Nah, I'm all right. Be safe, guys. All right, you take it easy now. And then like Bill and Ted stuff.
Yeah, they are Bill and Ted. Actually, they probably actually are Bill and Ted. When did Bill and Ted come out? Is it around this time?
Yeah.
Probably is. It's early 90s, isn't it? So, yeah, they probably are totally Bill and Ted.
Okay, so Stallone gets back, and he doesn't want to do any more of the climbing because he's been gone for... Like, how long had he been gone? Like, was it a whole year, or was it just like a few months?
I think it says 8 months. I think it says 8 months later, which is an odd period of time.
Yeah.
But
so he's gone for that period of time, and then he comes back, and then some shit happens, and is that supposed to be his wife or what?
I'm not sure if they were ever actually married or not, although I think he has a ring on, so maybe they were, which just causes some questions about them being so like easy to not be together, or how easy he just ran off because he was afraid of climbing. Nobody in the movie has any right to blame him for it being his fault. Because he says, like, you did it your way, and that's what got it. It's like, what other way was there? What could he have done? Like, if he hadn't gone out on the cable, the buckle would have still continued to break, and she still would have fallen just earlier, because he wouldn't have ever caught hold of her hand.
Well, the only thing is, you had the old man flying the helicopter. You had the woman in the helicopter that was running the cord. Then you had the other guy who had the damaged leg. And then on the other side of the mountain peak, you had Stallone. And he was the only one capable of doing anything about it. And so she couldn't move because, one, she's panicking, and she had no actual control over like the rope itself and her holding on to it because she had already fallen. And so she couldn't do anything, and someone had to, and he took the risk.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that nothing could happen fast enough. Now, they said send over a new harness. So I don't know why they didn't send the harness anyways.
Yeah, even if he was coming from the other side, there's no reason not to.
Like you just slide the harness down there, because with the weight of those two people on the cord stretching, then that means they're going to be at a lower point, and that harness should have just slid right down to him, and there it goes, is a harness for him to try to strap her into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, he actually says it was your weight on the line that caused her to fall. Well, no, it actually wasn't at all. It has nothing to do with the weight on the line. The line didn't break. Her harness did. Yeah, like she fell before she started to fall before he even got on the line. So
it's bad dialogue just to create tension and conflict.
Yeah, it's fake conflict.
But of course, like the criminals are doing their thing, and then there's the issues, and she tries to talk him into going back out there to save people, but she does it by talking trash, and she's like, "Really, man, you had to fall into that trap?"
Yeah, and then he ends up the mountain before the other guy does, even though he was like 4 hours ahead or something.
Yep. All right. Now I want to talk about the villains for a minute. Why do these villains, why are they so terrible at being villains?
Well, he's just like, John Lithgow is just so angry that...
Is that the bald guy?
He's the not treasury guy.
Okay.
He's the main bad guy.
No, wait.
The mastermind guy.
Oh, mastermind. Okay, yeah.
He just he spends so much of the movie just making threats he can't possibly commit to, because it would mess everything up. Because he keeps threatening we'll kill you. It's well, except we know you can't, because you still need him, because you haven't found all the money yet.
Yeah.
So just being angry and saying you're going to do stuff is just not. It's not really threatening, because it's empty, because we know you can't do it.
Well,
and if you would have, because you already killed other people just because they got on your nerves or something. So,
well, the whole issue is they try to act smart, and they just, it doesn't work out for them. I'm not sure what the whole insulin bit was for. It's just hey, we're stranded up here and we need insulin.
Oh, well, it never comes back. It's just to make it more you better hurry to get us. It's just but then nobody ever talks about it again, so it actually doesn't really come to anything.
Really? Oh, you wouldn't have thought of that. It doesn't really matter. They're still going to come anyways.
Yeah, you're trapped on the mountain. It doesn't matter. It's their job to rescue people trapped on the mountain. So,
and then you have the part where it's when you have yourself in a bad situation, and you're expendable, then after a certain point, you just kind of have to understand, well, there's a really high chance that I'm going to be killed, so I better use my brain and try to figure a way out of this, because I'm going to die one way or another unless I do something. And what's his name with the old war wound? What was his movie name?
Movie name... Hal. Okay, well, Hal is kind of an idiot because he never blocks it. He never covers his face, so he gets hit in the face a lot. When he doesn't have to do anything special. He can just cover his face up, and they wouldn't hit him in the face every 5 minutes. And then we're out on a mountain and there's ice and snow everywhere, and let's just fire a grenade upwards to it. Like no one thought that through. What about an avalanche? And then they had to deal with that extra shit. Why did he so suddenly become expendable? I don't know. Well,
because they have no experience.
One guide. One guide is enough.
But I don't know. They don't know that.
No, they don't. They never know anything, and they just keep doing stupid stuff. I mean, it's just because they're just impulsive and just bad. They're just bad. Like
I said, they're bad at being villains. I mean, it would have been better just to have them, they show up and then they just bullshit to them about them being with the government, and they have to, reclaim this really important stuff because national security, and they're
I'm sure that guy's got his treasury badge or something.
They could have, if they weren't so bad at being villains, then they could have bullshitted their way out of it. No one would have gotten killed. They wouldn't have gotten caught. They could have got all 3 boxes worth of money and easily been out of there as quickly as they wanted to be. But it's no, we're going to make threats and cause issues and make problems because we're stupid. We're bad villains.
Yeah.
And their little machine that they use for tracking the boxes, it looks like it's supposed to be a 3D scanner to show you where it's at, but it only shows you a 2D display, and that display never changes. So I want to know how you read that.
Well, maybe if you actually put it up to your face like it looks like you're supposed to, because nobody ever does. It's got like a form thing on it where you can like put it over your face like goggles, but everybody just sort of holds it over here and looks into it. So, I mean, it's still like it would have to have like 2 screens or something to be able to actually be helpfully 3D, but it doesn't. So I don't know. I mean, it does show different parts of the mountain, but it does look like it wouldn't be that useful in telling you how to get anywhere, which I guess is what they need Stallone and Hal for, because it doesn't tell them how to get there. It just tells you where there is.
Yeah.
It's a really, really large piece of equipment, though, to do not that big of a job.
Okay, so they find like the first one, and then they end up losing it, so they move on to the next one. But they shift it to being like night, and it hits like immediately. And like
it gets dark very fast.
The time progression in this movie has periods that are absolutely terrible. Like they do a decent job, like when it's the middle of the day, but when they try to transition between, oh well, it's the next day, they hit it so blankly that you can't tell it's next day until it's like, oh well, now it's already night. Like what happened? Like these people would have had to walk from here to here. Like where have they gone? Like why is it taking so long? There's hours and hours and hours missing.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's supposed to be winter, so maybe days are short. But yeah, still it's
but that only
a lot of time we don't see.
But see, that's the thing is like the period of when time progresses between sunlight to no sunlight, even in winter, it doesn't happen that fast. You know, like that level of darkness. Like it's just no. It's not like, oh well, it's only been like 30 minutes now. It's pitch black outside. Like that's no. Like even in winter in the Rockies.
So then the girl shows up on the mountain because they've been out of radio contact for so long, and she's like, "I'm going up to find out what's going on." But the storm and apparently cold makes radios not work, except not the bad guys' radios, because theirs continue to work.
I always thought it was more of a just the radios were turned off kind of thing.
Well, no, Stallone has a line. He says when she comes in, she says, "What are you supposed to do?" And she says, "Cold killed my radio," and so they can't call down to helicopter guy and tell him what's happening.
Yeah, that seems like you have shitty radios.
But the bad guys' radios, which are the same radios, you would think, because they stole them off of Stallone and Hal, still work just fine.
Okay, around this point, because I made the comment about it going to night really quickly, and they burned the money for heat.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't help but to want to make a comment about it's like, oh, it cost a fortune to heat this place.
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah, because he says that, and I was like, arms crossed, and then he says, yeah, bad joke. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't really make it okay, but at least it's not like you're just really trying to get away with that.
Yeah.
But
I'm thinking,
he does burn the money though.
Yeah. Well, see, then it cuts to the guys, and they're in the tent, and they're talking. It's like, yeah, the guys, they're still alive, and then it's like the next morning, and they run off because they're being shot at, and bad stuff happens, and they try killing them. Like, why? Like, why do you have to kill these guys? Like, they don't know anything. You know, once again, you could have easily bullshitted your way out of this, because, the more people that you end up killing and they find out that you killed them, that just racks up more murder charges.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the dudes give them a way out.
Yeah.
They say, oh, what, are you just like babysitting tourists? All they have to do is let him say, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the dudes will go off about their business and won't pay any attention to anything.
Yeah.
So
Like, they're just a couple of adrenaline junkies, they're not going to care. And it's like, oh, we know that guy. What's up? All right, we're going to be going doing this. You take it easy. And just no, but you had to go and kill him, and that was terrible. It's like, it's sad.
yeah, there was no reason to kill them. It was bad villainy. It's just
Okay, now when they're like, you have the whole group and they're at the ledge, and you have poor Mastermind being bad at his job, and you have the Hal in the back. And I'm just thinking, do you know how easy it would have been just to push like all of them off that edge? Because they were close enough. Like, once you had them falling, like, they might have, like, the one guy, like the white guy with the gun, might have gotten a few rounds off. But if you just pushed like those two people and they're done. Like, oh well, because he even makes a comment about, you want to push me off this ledge, don't you? Oh yeah, you got no idea. Like, you just shot some kids who had like nothing to do with you.
so then they climb into Bat Cave. Apparently. Not the Bat Cave, just a cave which contains bats.
Now, I know some bats will have diseases, and so it is understandable for people not to like bats, but most of the time, if you get in that situation where the bats are like losing their shit and flying all over the place, all you gotta do is like get down to the ground and then shut your mouth, and then they'll end up flying off. They'll probably come back later, but they're not gonna mess with you. So there's no reason to be like freaking out and screaming everywhere and giving away your location to people who could be potentially nearby with guns who are out to kill you.
Yeah, it's just bats. They're not they're not going to kill you. Just try to stay calm. Although when they were actually shooting it, both Stallone and Janie Turner were scared enough of the bats that they couldn't do the scene with the real bats. So there's like when they're actually like seeing the bats like on the ceiling and their heads are close to them, those aren't real bats. And then when they're flying, it's not. They tried to shoot it live, but they were too scared, and so they couldn't do it.
Not good enough.
So, I mean, I don't know. If you put me in a cave full of bats, maybe I'd freak out. I don't know. I've never had it happen, so I don't want to say, that's dumb. You shouldn't be scared of bats. They're just bats.
I mean, like, if the bats start eating you, then,
well,
yeah, like, freak out all you want. They're eating you.
Yeah.
Now, you can be grossed out by bats, bats are going to shit on things, and if they're up there and they shit on you, it's the same thing as a bird doing it. That's going to be gross.
Yeah. And then we have another example of why torture doesn't work. Because the black guy comes in and he's beating him to death to get him to tell him where the money is. And he tells him the truth every time. He burned it. He really did. But because that's not what he wants to hear, then he still continues to beat him up.
Yeah.
So torture doesn't only works if you already know the information, and then in which case you don't need to, because you don't know. You don't know if you're getting true information or not.
Well, a lot of the problem ends up being that whenever we see movies or TV shows where someone gets tortured to try to get an answer out of it, they never, like, any answer they get, they never like that answer. And it doesn't even matter if it's true or not. It's just they get an answer and they don't like it. So they always have to, push it further. And then sometimes they get the same answer, sometimes they get a different answer. But for the sake of watching it, the people doing the torturing don't seem to have the ability to understand, well, we have an answer, let's proceed with this answer, and then if this answer turns out correct, then okay, but if it's not, then we will continue to torture him until he gives us a different answer that is hopefully more correct.
But until you check it out, you don't know.
Yeah, well,
doesn't do any good to say, tell me, and then so they tell you something, and then you just keep beating them to death.
Exactly. Like there has to be out of it. Like proper pacing for it.
I mean, really, he's still continuing to just be angry like he's been the rest of the movie and just wants to beat him up for whatever reasons he has.
But it's a trap, and you can tell it's a trap because Stallone wasn't fighting back.
Yeah.
Like he's not defending himself. He's not trying to take a cheap shot at him. Like no, he's just letting the guy hit him and move him into a different location. And then it's like, oh yeah, it was a trap because then he picked him up and then like rammed him through that icicle that was just hanging there.
Yeah. Well, if he did fight back though, see that guy I could believe a little bit more. I mean, when we get to the end and John Lithgow is fighting, like it's entirely unbelievable that John Lithgow is going to beat up Sylvester Stallone. Like, there's no way I can accept that that's a thing that's happening.
No.
So, but this guy, at least this guy might have some more chance. Apparently soccer is a good means of fighting, though, as well.
Well, it's about the kicking, and like right there, like because that little whole sequence was just like, all right, well, the shit that he does is near ignorant because he doesn't cover his face. He had plenty of opportunity, and he had himself in a position where right before the guy came up for that last kick, he could have lunged upwards, not forwards, upwards, grabbing him. And then, of course, because the guy was a soccer player and he does stuff with his feet, you just hold him there and then you spin around and throw him off the cliff because you're right there, almost off the cliff yourself. And it's like, no, I'm just going to like stab him in the leg. Yeah. I'm letting myself get kicked in the face.
He takes a really long time to even get out the knife. He gets kicked in the face a lot before he even goes for the knife when he doesn't have to. And he could have stabbed him much earlier.
Now, why they have a 60-year-old rope? Why do they have a 60-year-old rope in a shack? And why is there not extra radios in the shack to start with?
Because it's just a museum. I mean, it is up on the mountain, so they should have emergency stuff there just in case. Yeah. But they're just using the old stuff from the museum cases.
But that's the thing is like, why wasn't there extra supplies there? Because you never know what would happen. And then just having something extra there would be nice. I'm not saying you should have like the full kit with everything you would possibly need, but having extra rope or some radios or some batteries or something that would prove to be helpful in a tight situation.
Or whoever firewood. Something.
Whoever was doing this and managing the shack wasn't thinking. All right. Let's see here. Okay, because I'm building up to when they actually when they kill the old man in the helicopter. But they cross the bridge, and when he gets closer to the end of the bridge, he sees the C4 because he trips the wire, and it starts the countdown, and he turns around and he yells, "Run!" and he starts running back, and the woman just kind of looks at him like, "What?" I'm like, I mean, like, I know "run" isn't, it's a word that can be confused with other words that end with "un," but when you're on a bridge and you see the guy that you're following turn around and start running to you, you best get the fuck off that bridge.
Yeah.
Like, don't just stand there and look at him.
Even just to get out of the way, because he's coming this way. But nope, she just looks.
And of course, the old man is being the old man, and he's trying to do his job because he's being helpful. And then he lands and he goes to help the woman, and then it's a trap and all this other kind of business. But like, why did they have to kill him too? Because it's just somebody who knew how to fly the helicopter.
Because they kill everyone for no reason.
Exactly.
Like, no one that they kill in the whole movie had to be killed.
Yep. Okay. So my next note is something that is really like a thing. When Bad Mastermind is chasing this stuff down, how did he get far enough on the other side of the mountain to actually watch someone fall off?
I don't know. That was a sort of we have passage of time problems and geography problems. Yeah, I don't know, because it was not that long.
Yeah, because that POV shot was just like, there's no way he had the time to get far enough in that landscape to watch that happen at that distance. That's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on a lighter note, I did like the fact that Stallone caught a rabbit. So it's like, oh, look, it's a rabbit hole. Let's run our arm down the rabbit hole and hope there's a rabbit in there, and then yank that fucker out, and then put the tracking device on him.
Yeah.
Just to screw with everybody. That was hilarious.
Now, and actually, in the original pre-release cut of this, the rabbit, like the bad guys shot the rabbit, and audiences reacted very badly to it. It was bad. Like, it tainted the whole movie for the test audiences, and so they had to Stallone actually put up his own money in order to reshoot that scene so that the rabbit lived, so that it wouldn't bother people so much.
It's a rabbit, guys. I mean, it's not like, give it 30 minutes, it'll make like 10 more. All right, so like the rabbit's okay. And honestly, I think that was a nice touch, because if you were to look at it and if you had no clue about the fact that they actually did kill the rabbit the first go around, and then they had to change it, like, because I had no clue. So like seeing that rabbit live, because you watch the guy, he gets really angry, he shoots at the rabbit, and then he misses, and the rabbit's okay. And it's terrible, I know it, and I hate stuff like this, but it's like, it's symbolism saying that hate and anger can be pointless because it doesn't do anything. And I'm just, because that's what I thought. I was like, wow, this is so terrible. Why couldn't he just hit the rabbit? And then it's like, oh, yeah, well, he really did. And then people didn't like that. And
well, really, though, if he did, though, then it not only makes the bad guys look bad because they shot the rabbit, but then it also makes Stallone's character look bad because he put the rabbit in danger by putting the tracking device on it. So.
Well, the thing is, I'm thinking about is the rabbit still has the tracking device on it.
Yeah.
Like, they never went back and caught the rabbit and took it off. Like, the rabbit still has it on there.
Yeah.
Now, my next bit is you have the mastermind, and he's in the helicopter because he can fly the helicopter. Tell me, what do you remember about him being in the helicopter before he kidnapped the woman?
I don't remember that he was in the helicopter.
Well, he was in the helicopter, and he was flying the helicopter. And then after she was told to go to that area and not come back, she comes back and gets kidnapped. But she gets kidnapped because the guy in the helicopter is pointing his gun at her through the windshield.
Inside the helicopter? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, seriously, God, he sucks so hard. It's like, what are you going to do? Just shoot through the windshield? And then she still gets captured. Like, she could have easily ran off. I mean, he would have had to actually...
He's got to land the helicopter.
Or at least open it up or something. Like, he can't just start shooting at her from where he's at.
Well, but he's got to get out. If he's going to actually capture her, he has to land the helicopter and go over and grab her and tie her up and put her back. Because there's nobody else in it. And it's not just going to stay hovering there while he goes and grabs her out the side door or anything.
Yep.
So, I guess she's not good at fighting.
No, apparently not. Or good at listening at what she's told to do. Like, oh yeah, like these people, they have guns and they're shooting at us and they're trying to kill us. But I need you to do this so we can get support. Of course I need you to come back and cause more problems and mess up plans. And of course I'll have to save you because this is an action movie and shit. Like, no. Go the fuck that way and don't come back.
That's actually sort of, apart from that the villains are bad at being villains, the main biggest problem with this is that there's so many different people in significant danger so many times that it just sort of gets to be like, all right, someone's in danger again. Because the opening is like, oh man, it's dangerous. But then everybody's in danger all the time, and everybody's being under threat of being shot, or they're hanging off the edge of cliffs, or there's a bomb, or people are getting captured, or they're getting beat up really bad. Like, there's just so much danger that you start to not care about it anymore.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of times people are in danger because stupid reasons, or you don't know how they got there, like her in the helicopter.
Now, that helicopter and the mastermind guy is in it, and Sylvester is like working this plan out, and he's got this stuff, and he knows what he's doing, and they let down the little cord hook, and it's like, okay, you drop her off over there, and I'll give you the money. Like, all right, so that gets taken care of. And then he attaches that cord to that ladder, which is attached to that rock facing, which I think is hilarious because when when the helicopter tries to fly off, because like the money got hit and everything's all over the place, and so he's trying to like angle it back around, but he's caught on the ladder, and so that part of the ladder just rips right off of the facing. It just rips until it hits that one part, and then just shit goes haywire. And then like that next series of bolts holding that ladder in place stay there for forever.
When like the 10 other bolts above it did not at all.
Yeah, it's like why did those 10 just rip off? But these are like they're like the Wolverine of like the ladder bolts. Like, seriously, why is it these two? Like, why didn't like they just all rip right off? Like, no. And of course they had to be like the final fight scene. And I figured like it was just going to fall and explode, but no, it was going to dangle there and then they were going to fight on it. Which is actually kind of interesting because, I would like, did they actually do that? Did they really fight on top of the bottom of a helicopter suspended from the side of a mountain?
Well, some of it is. Some of it is a helicopter on this hanging off the side of a mountain, and some of it's a model. But most of the really close stuff is not. And you can actually tell that was actually something that made me really sad because so much of the time they do a lot. Most of it is real, so there's not a lot of it's real people, and in a lot of the cases, like 90% of the time or more, really Stallone climbing the side of a mountain, or it's just big sweeping helicopter shots of stuff, and it's real. And then that fight on top of the crashed helicopter, when they cut to the wider shots, when you can actually see that the ladder is still kind of dangling there and stuff, and then when they're fighting on the one that's on the fake rock face, it looks so different because the ladder is missing, the damage to the helicopter is not the same. So there are some shots where there's really people fighting on a helicopter on a real mountain, but most of it isn't, and it's a shame because it looks not as good as the rest of the stuff does.
Well, I can understand it being fake just on the principle of how difficult it'd really be to make sure these actors were safe just to film this. But that's not an excuse to not have it look good in some way.
And make it match.
Yeah.
Which they do a good job of the rest of the time.
Yeah, like it would be kind of fine just to have it where, we're going to take like part of a rock framing, and then we're going to take the helicopter and remove the blades from the helicopter and then make some kind of frame for it to hold into against the side of the mountain. And then, like the stuff is still there and we'll have them fight on it, and we'll just use, camera movement to help make up for some of this stuff. That way we don't have to worry about them falling off of it or us having to have harness gear, because the harness gear would just get in the way. Because they're having to interact with each other and they would both have to be harnessed. Like something a little bit different, but who knows? It could be a budget issue, a timing issue, just something. But there could have been a different way if there really could have been a different way.
Well, actually, the fall, when it actually falls and explodes on the ground, that's a 1/6 scale model, and that looks better than when they're actually fighting on top of the thing.
And the funny thing is, I could tell that was a model, and I was like, yes, that did look really good. I didn't know it was 1/6 though.
Yeah, it's a 1/6. It's pretty large. It's still a pretty large model, but it's a 1/6 scale model. And then we do get a line very similar to the It Costs a Fortune line that they don't call out, and that I do actually like more, because the thing falls off the side, and then the FBI or whoever it is talks to them on the radio, and they ask where the bad guy is, and he says he's at the bottom, look like several thousand feet down. He'll be the one wearing a helicopter.
Yeah,
and I did like that.
Yeah.
And then it ends. And then the movie ends very suddenly. Like, didn't it feel like it was like, just suddenly, that's it?
Like, explosion, whippy one-liner, end.
And then, then we have this, like, pull out from them and the credits are starting. It's like, wait a minute, that's the end? That happened very suddenly. Although we do get one of my favorite things, which is actual film behind credits. Not for the whole credits, but for a good piece of the beginning part there. But it was a very, very abrupt and sudden end. I mean, I guess there's not much further for it to go. All the bad guys are dead, and it's not important to see them get rescued from the mountain by the FBI, but it just... It just seemed so like, wait, I thought there's at least going to be like, there's another scene after this or something, right? But there's not.
Nope.
So how do we feel about stars?
I'm going to give this movie 3 stars. Like, I don't mind watching it, and it's something I think other people should watch just to experience it, at least for the beginning. But there's too many issues with it. The dialogue is bad. The bad guys are uninteresting and annoying. 3 stars.
I think I'm going to have to say 3 stars too. I want to give it more because because the story is bad and the dialogue is bad, but it's really well made apart from that. There's like really great real mountain climbing and the stunt in the air and all this great production stuff, but it isn't. Well, apart from that, I mean, we made such a big deal other times that shiny is not enough. It's really shiny and it's really nice, so you should at least see it just for that. Yeah. And it's not bad. Like, there are worse action, supposedly thriller movies than this. It's not bad. It's just...
if they would have changed up the dialogue, if they would have had the villains act differently, without them being so obnoxious about wanting to kill every single thing that moved around them, then this movie could have been better. But I blame it all on them.
Yeah.
Because everything else I ended up
hard. I think it tries too hard. And it's a shame.
Yeah. Well, of all, like, compared to, normal Sylvester movies, I liked Oscar more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have to say about Cliffhanger. We'll be back next week.
I'm thinking about it's like, it cost us a 4chan to heat this place. Huh?
This is